All right, so we're going to start. So please be welcome to this masterclass. Good morning to everybody, and thank you for being with us. My name is Dominique Rouchon, and I'm the Managing Director for Sales, Marketing, and Communication at Angenieux. This masterclass will be animated by Jordan Mintzer, who has been with us in the previous masterclasses. And of course, we will have on stage Santosh Sivan, famous cinematographer. And we are doing this masterclass in presence of Kadri Koop. Kadri is going to receive the Angenieux encouragement tomorrow night. So Angenieux has been coming to this festival for 11 years. We have been doing this because we think that cinematographers are extremely important in the cinema channel. There would be no movies without cinematographers. So when we decided to come to Cannes 11 years ago, we thought it was very important to do so with the cinematographers. So for years, we have given this award to masters of cinematography, like Philippe Rousselot, Roger Deakins, Vilmos Zsigmond, Ed Lachman, Christopher Doyle, Bruno Delbonnel, Agnès Godard, who is here in this room, Darius Khondji, Barry Ackroyd, so only big names. And this year, it's Santosh Sivan. So we have decided to celebrate India this year because I believe personally, and we believe that Indian cinema needs to be more visible worldwide in big festivals. And this festival is the biggest in the world. So what else? Why Santosh Sivan? We needed to find a cinematographer among the best cinematographers from India. And Santosh is a master in cinematography. When you look at his movies, and I won't tell you I've seen all his movies because I was not born in the Bollywood cinema, and sometimes the movies are not even accessible in Europe. And I hope this little event we're making is going to help to change that. Santosh images are astonishing. I know Santosh started with drawing and painting with his grandmother. And for me, Santosh is sometimes a Picasso, sometimes a Vermeer, sometimes a Fragonard, sometimes a Winterhalter, sometimes a Rembrandt. When I look at your landscape, Santosh, for me, it's like merging in nature. The way you treat faces is, for me, an act of love. When you take a picture of the eyes of an actress, you are making us dive in the soul of the person. So all this is very emotional. And last but not least, when you shoot a Bollywood dancer, it makes me dream. It's like when you make images around Aishwarya Rai dancing. I have the feeling I'm dancing with this princess. So only beautiful images. And the other good reason for us to celebrate and pay tribute to Santosh is the fact that Santosh is the only Indian cinematographer in India being part of both the IFC and the ASC. And I know your inspiration comes from Indian cinematographers like Subrata Mitra, or as well Western cinematographers like Nestor Almendros, I know you are Inconditional, or Vittorio Storaro. And this influence is visible in your images. You're able to go from one side of the world to the other side with the same approach of the world, but always adapting yourself. So this is for all these reasons that we are going to give you the Pierre Angénieux Tribute tomorrow. And now I wish to welcome on stage Jordan, who is going to ask you the questions. And please give a warm welcome to a master of cinematography, Santosh Sivan. You are about to live a moment of exception because it's the first time Santosh comes to Cannes, and I'm sure we are going to have an exceptional moment. Thank you. Please give him a warm welcome.
go right here. Voila. Let me give us some water.
Sorry.
Okay. Actually, I wanted to just continue what Dominique was saying, that in the Cannes Film Festival, we haven't had many Indian films over the years, and certainly never an Indian cinematographer honored. And this year, it's a coincidence, actually, that both Santosh is here, and there are two Indian films, excellent films, I've seen both of them, playing in the festival. One in competition by Payal Kapadia, and another film, actually, that's called Santosh, but is not about Santosh over here. And it's playing on Certain Regard, and these are by young female filmmakers. So this is a new thing as well for Cannes to have these kind of movies. And I recommend, if you can see them, you should definitely check them out. I wanted to start off just kind of going off what Dominique was saying about the landscape. This morning when we met, you showed me a film you made from the region where you grew up, Kerala. Yeah. And I want to know a little about how that, growing up in this, I mean, the landscapes were stunning, how that you think influenced, your future as a cinematographer, but just as the way you look at the world in general.
Actually, I grew up in Kerala.
Yeah.
It's an amazing place, actually. It's called God's Own Country.
God's Own Country.
That's how it is advertised. And actually, I made the initial tourism films for them. But what is great about that place is that water, it's a very raining kind of place, very green and very eco-friendly, with mountains on one side and the sea on the other side. Just 1 hour's distance between each other. So it has a very varied kind of landscape with backwaters. So it's an amazing place, actually. But what is interesting is that at a very young age, you find that water is a metaphor for how we feel, So you have water which is static, like a pond, or like a waterfall which is flowing fast. So you have water in all its forms, almost like how human emotions are, So I actually made a film based on these things called The Terrorist, which of course, so I've done a lot of things with that as a metaphor. Or seasons being a metaphor for how a human behaves. Because I think we are all one, actually. And I feel that when you are from such a place, you realize at a very early age that a tree has to grow both ways, It has to go into the roots of where you are, the culture and things, and then only you can go up the other side. So you grow both sides. So I think for me, like many others, this growth has been from both sides, actually. Yeah.
And you come from a family, from what I read, of artists, and your father was a photographer. So did that put you on the route to doing what you do now, or did you want to start off maybe drawing like you used to do?
Yeah, actually, what happened is my grandmother used to teach painting in the palace, and there was a very celebrated painter of 18th century called Rajari Verma, who used to paint. He's a Raja, actually. He was a king. He used to paint pictures of our mythology. So my grandmother used to encourage my painting. At the same time, she would bring all these big paintings home, calendars, and then explain the story behind the mythology of what the painting meant, which I think was your first visual education. It starts to make you imagine a world that isn't there, so you have to imagine how it was, which I like, because some filmmakers like to create their own worlds, and some people like to portray realistically what exists. So I think what was interesting was that soon after that, my dad, who was a very, very prominent photojournalist and used to make documentaries, and I used to accompany him as a kid.
Oh, yeah.
To all those places, and he used to, and so I felt that traveling perhaps is the best way to learn firsthand. If you go to an institute or a school, you're learning everything second-hand. It's a group of shared information. But when you travel, it is a very, very personal experience, and you learn quite a bit.
Did you also grow up watching a lot of films and movies, and that was something you thought you imagined you would want to do yourself?
Not too many like that. I actually like the fact to take pictures and get them published at a very young age. And so I used to like taking pictures, and I used to observe nature a lot. Not because I wanted to do photography. I used to play hockey, and in my place, it used to rain every afternoon. You don't know when it will rain. So it was my job to stand on the terrace and look at the skies and call up other people and say, today we can play, it won't rain. So I watched all these beautiful rain clouds gather, and then you see the greens brighter against them, see the changes. Suddenly you find a huge shower, and then the sunlight will come and catch all these fresh foliage with little droplets of water. Then I realized that nature is amazing, but it's very fleeting. It just comes and goes, Night turning into day, the day turning into night. All these beautiful moments in nature are very fleeting. So I realized you have to be very quick. You have to capture it.
And what made you want to decide to study film? Because you went to the Film and Television Institute, which is a famous big film school in India where a lot of directors and cinematographers come from. Was that you decided at some point, I want to learn how to make movies as well?
Yeah, I think, after that I wanted to learn. And we have this old saying in Malayalam that don't try to touch your nose like this, you just touch it like this. So you go to a film school to study. So you go directly and approach it. And also there you found like-minded people. Right. Because my schoolmates all wanted to be doctors and engineers and scientists, and I wanted to be an artist. So you go to film school, you find like-minded people there. And then most importantly, in the film school I studied, Pune Film Institute, you came across an archive which had all the classics from world cinema. So you realize that you understood different cultures, different way of filmmaking. You discovered Kurosawa and all these beautiful filmmakers. And so that awareness is very important,
I wanted to start off showing a clip because, as Dominique was saying, it's not easy to see all of your work here in Europe. You've DP'd around 80 films and you've directed over 20 films, but few of them are available. So I want to, give people a taste of your work. The first clip I chose was from a film called, I'm going to try to pronounce it right, how can you say
Vanaprastham. Vanaprastham is a film that actually played in Cannes.
Yeah. I played on Sautin les Gare in 1999, yeah. And I think it's interesting when you're talking about both your background, this world of storytelling, performance, and all that. We see a lot of that in the film because it's about a very specific art form that maybe you can talk about after. So let's show the first clip just so we can get an idea of what we're talking about here. Merci. Maybe you can talk briefly about your experience on this film because it was interesting in that you were two cinematographers. There was a collaboration with the great Swiss cinematographer Renato Berta, and it's quite interesting because this film, I feel like there's a European sensibility to it and an Indian sensibility. So how was that experience, for instance, shooting?
Actually, Kathakali is something that is hundreds of years old, So we are all, as children, I've seen all these performances. So I'm very much familiar with it, And I think these art forms have stood the test of time, which is why they're still popular and very much patronized, I think. So this film happened, and the actor actually asked me to shoot the film because after initial 5-10 days, he had to leave. And then the film stopped for a year almost, And then I had to take it up and then we finished.
And one of the things that that we see in this scene, and it's something I think when I looked at your work, there's landscapes and there's faces, and I find that we're often going between the two. This is a scene where there's no landscape, we're really on the human face, which is also heavily made up.
Yeah.
I read somewhere that sometimes you sketch the faces that you're gonna.
I feel that most faces are not perfect. They're not perfect. I think it is the imperfections in a face that makes someone interesting. In fact, I did a film. One of my first initial films I did is a film called Perindachan, which is actually talks a mythological story of a master craftsman who used to make sculpt gods for the temple, and he used to make everything very perfect. Then his son started to make statues, and he started making things imperfect, and all the people started to appreciate that more than this. And then the master craftsman actually kills the son because he didn't like the competition. So it's a mythology which talks that perfection is not everything. So I find that the cinematographer should be like a best friend to the person who's acting, whether it's an actor or an actress. When you tell, okay, I don't need you to do makeup because this is a very pure kind of sequence, they should feel confident that it's like your best friends on the other side. Because when you go to meet your best friends, you don't necessarily comb your hair and make up and do that.
Sure.
There's a freedom attached to it. So then, most of the films I've shot, the actors are only doing makeup when I ask them to do makeup, or maybe if there's too much of sunlight or something, I'll do something. So I think you have to earn their trust. That is the most important thing. And fortunately for me, I mean, when you say, okay, do something, they actually trust you to follow what you say, actually.
Now, so you started off as a cinematographer, and I always ask this question to cinematographers: and you became a director. Most cinematographers don't wind up becoming directors. A lot of them just keep doing cinematography. Did you initially want to do both when you got out of school, or how did you make your way to becoming a DP and shooting lots of films before directing?
Yeah, after passing out from a very reputable film institute, you tend to be very confident and also a little egoistic. So you refuse any offers to assist or do mentorship. I didn't want to go and work with other people because you think that you know everything. So I had no job actually. And all these desire to shoot all these amazing things seemed to disappear because you didn't really have any job to do anything, because you didn't want to assist anyone. And how do you get into the industry? So I asked myself, why do you want to be a cinematographer? Then I realized the main reason to be a cinematographer was to travel. So I said, let me travel then, okay. So I took up an opportunity with the Christian community there to do small films on Super 8 for them, for their welfare. Then I took up same way for Vivekananda Kendra, which is a Hindu kind of a thing. They used to have schools for children. So you go and do all these little things where children are having food, and then it is shown, and they'll get some money to get more afternoon meals for them. So I was very volunteering to go anywhere. And I also had done a course in Kodak about color processing and printing. So they asked me, would you like to go and teach photography? So I volunteered. Yes, I said, I would love to. Tribal children, people who have no access and all that. So they actually sent me to the Himalayas, near China border, called Arunachal Pradesh. At that time, I didn't know it was so far away and all that. It took me 9-10 days to reach there. And that was full of forest, This is 40 years back. And it is near the Himalayas, and all these people are dressed in bear hugs, rugs and those kind of people, very scary, short, very strong, muscular, hill people, So the school was a very small school. It's hardly about 2 acres, very heavily fenced because tigers and all of them coming around. And in the school, I found me being welcomed by Gandhiji's statue. But they had made him very similar to them. with big muscles, and Gandhi was like one very violent guy, and his stick was raised as if he was going to hit you or something. So I told these kids, and they all have swords, the kids. I told them Gandhiji was not like this. He was a very non-violent person. Then they said, no, but he lifted the stick and all the Britishers ran away. So that was their idea of freedom. You know?
Sure.
So, but they were interesting people. I learned a lot of things which I didn't learn in the institute from them. Because when their dog died, they wanted to go deep into the forest and bury the dog under a tree which they dug up to 8 feet down because they want to see the root. Then they said, so I said, why so deep? Only if you see the root, the dog becomes the flower. So they had these beautiful, very profound this thing. And the elders told me, like tribal wisdom, they said that anything with mystery should have a blend of darkness and light, like the roots and light. So it should be, so anything with mystery and life should have darkness and light, which is what I now practice in all my work actually.
So that's your foundations are not working on sets as a camera assistant and typical.
I also always think of these things. Later, while returning, I learned something else which is very strange. That is, they suddenly, it was getting dark, and in the middle of the forest, they drew out their swords and had a protective ring around me. So I asked, what's happening? Then they said, 2 tiger prints, sir, 2 tiger prints. Fresh tiger prints. Then I said, okay, what do you do if you see? And then I'm thinking, this is very tall grass, so you can't see. The tiger must be thinking, good dinner coming up or something. You don't know what exactly they must have been thinking. So I asked these kids, what do you see if you see a tiger? What do you do? Well, I didn't know what I should do. They said, we will run very fast and climb tall tree very fast. Now, they are hill people, they can do that. There's no way I can do it actually. None of us can do it. So I told, but I don't know how to climb a tree and like that. I don't know how. Then he looked very confidently at me and says, no problem, sir. You see tiger, you learn everything very fast. So I think that is what most cinematographers confront, because they are asked to do some humongous stuff in no time, and then this tiger is behind you, and then you do it like that. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So speaking of landscapes and locations, I wanted to show the next clip, which is from the film Ravan, and by Mani Ratman, and that's a director you've worked with many times. Yeah. It's a real collaboration.
I've done 6 films with him, yeah.
And some of you know Indian cinema or Bollywood cinema. You know, there's some very famous dance sequence from Dil Se, another film. But I wanted to show something else, which was a scene set. We were talking about water by a waterfall, and in the water from Ravan. Okay. So we're gonna show that clip from Ravan, and then we can we'll discuss it a little, how you shot this scene, which is not easy to shoot.
Yeah.
Merci. Yeah, when I saw this scene, I was like, okay, not an easy scene to shoot in a location that's obviously far off, and with you know, this is not a green screen. You guys are there. I want to know how you approach a sequence like that as a cinematographer and getting all those angles.
Actually, we try to do everything real as much as possible, not have VFX too much. And we don't want to be caught doing VFX like that, unless it is really essential. Of course, there's some VFX in it, which I think could have been better. Anyway, we shot this in the monsoon, which is an amazing time to shoot in India, Kerala. Because monsoon is also very interesting because it is a time where the earth rejuvenates. So we have lots of these beautiful Ayurvedic natural healing where people go for all these kind of massages and things like that, because it's a part of rejuvenation. And this particular place is a very forest kind of a place where we shoot quite a bit, and it's a very well protected ecosystem actually. So we do a lot of shoots there. Yeah.
And do you when you do a scene like that with Mani Ratman, and you've done a lot of complicated sequences together, is your approach together is to storyboard and to figure out each shot, or are you going to the location and kind of feeling out how you're going to shoot it once you're there?
Actually, with money, what happens is that we spend a lot of time before the shoot. And we try to figure out why we are doing this, and not how and when is decided later, but we want to know why we do what we do, actually. So we spend a lot of time before shooting, So when we were doing a film like Roja, I am also sitting with the music director who was new at that time, A.R. Rahman, who is now an Oscar winner. And we spend a lot of time when they're making the tunes itself, we decide how we'll shoot this, what kind of thing will work. In fact, there's a very famous train song I did in Dil Se.
Sure.
Yeah. Which is, then we might have seen a lot of locations. Me and the director has gone through a lot of train journeys to see which suits us, Then we realized that the why is because we want to recreate a childhood nostalgia. So then there has to be a tunnel, because everyone remembers the train journey of them entering a tunnel and coming out.
Sure.
So then we decide, okay, we will do this place. So I think it slowly happens, and that happens with a lot of conversations. And so when we actually go to shoot something, there's no conflict of interest, and we all set already.
And yeah, I recommend those who haven't seen the train sequence from Jinse, you can watch. There's the clips on Google, on YouTube. Just put train sequence Dilse and you'll see it. It's one of the most incredible music sequences I've ever seen in a film. And
it was actually very interesting because I had done a film called The Terrorist, which was nominated for Independent Spirits Award. So The Dancer in the Dark got the award, actually.
Yeah.
So that time he told me he was inspired by the train sequence, and he had put that in his film Dancer in the Dark, or something like that.
And when you work with directors like, I guess your biggest collaborations is with Mani Ratnam. You work with a lot of other directors. Did you, at the same time, you're starting to think about directing your own movies, or are you content shooting their films for them? How does that work?
No, actually, what happened is, like I told you the story of Arunachal Pradesh, where I went to teach. Soon after, I made a film with all these people, a 1-hour film.
In the Himalayas?
In the Himalayas.
Okay.
And for which I got a lot of awards, and so everyone thought I was a director. And they started giving me a lot of short films. So I said, no, look here, I wanted to be a cinematographer. Then only I made the transition to cinematography, actually. Yeah.
Okay.
So I first started directing this film.
And then when did you come back to directing? At what point
Then I had a lot of ideas to do children's films that I had learned in school. And so I made 2 children's films, and everyone thought it was very strange that someone like me, who was a very established cinematographer, who knew all these big actors, wants to do children's films. So I surprised them by doing a film called Terrorist, but with still new people. Then they said, oh, you still like to do independent films? Then I thought, okay, I will make a historical film, and made a film with Shah Rukh Khan, which was a big star, a big historical film called Ashoka. So I think, you keep reinventing yourself.
Yeah, and do you even today, you told me before, you have 3 different projects you're working on right now. So you still go back and forth between directing and shooting other people's films, being a cinematographer.
Actually, now I'm doing a couple of films, which are big films actually, Bollywood films. And also I am directing a film called Zuni on a poetess from Kashmir, which I'm directing as well and shooting. And I think we are going to show maybe a teaser of that later.
At the very end. And do you always, when you direct, are you always also your own cinematographer, or have you worked with...
Yeah, I got used to it. Also, my actors who actually agreed to act in my film want to be shot by me, so I have to shoot.
That's part of the deal. Let's show a clip from Ashoka, because that's... it's a historical film. It's a Bollywood film. We're going to show one of the musical sequences in it, and you've shot many such musical sequences. I want to talk a little about how you work as a DP to shoot those scenes and direct those scenes, because you also directed this. So we're going to show it's a little long. It's like 4 minutes, but it's a great song and it's fun. So we're going to watch that. Merci.
Actually, this is not actually a Bollywood song, you would say. It is basically a stylized version of an old ancient tribal song.
Okay.
It's converted because it's a very tribal moments. So Bollywood song is not like this.
It's not exactly like that. In terms of the sequence, though, there's a few things I noticed. One is you're shooting with real sunlight. And that's something in a lot of your work that you're working as much as possible with the real sun, a lot of backlight with shadows. And so how do you is that something you always search to kind of use the sun as much as possible to light your work if you can?
Yeah, I think, you are basically, you're a student of light, You actually, someone like me, I get up at 5:30 in the morning and I see the monochrome, the first, when it's very soft light, it's like monochrome almost, like bluish. Then slowly the sunlight, before the sunlight comes, the colors start to come out slowly. And then when the sun comes out, the contrast begins to happen. So I think just like actors acting, the light also does 9 emotions throughout the day. So when you do a film, you pick one emotion which might suit the sequence. In France, the light is always not getting always on top, like in India. We have the sun coming up all the time. So I think, in order to study it, I even went to Sweden. Because I was very fascinated by the way Sven Nykvist used to write Bergman films. Then when I went to Sweden, I realized the sun is always like this, it is not going up like this. And it's there for a long time. You can, the sunlight comes right inside the house. It's amazing, So I think every place has such interesting things. So I think you're a student of light means then you pick what you would like to use for that particular film.
Right. I mean, so this sequence, which is, a romantic encounter between these two characters.
Actually, we shoot throughout the day. So we have to can't shoot everything in good light. Maybe even when it's top light, you have to shoot something. And this is also a set made in a studio. It is not really a natural place where it is a studio where we have built the set. And
then you have the outdoor. And there's also one thing you told me about before was sometimes on these films you have a tremendous amount of actors and technicians. Something you told me you were on a film where there was like 1,200 people involved in it.
Actually, the film I'm shooting recently used to have 1,500 people. 1,000 of them were actors actually, like a big procession like that. But you still have about 150 to 200 people on the set, and because I think labor is much cheaper, and also everyone likes to give people jobs, because there might be a lot of people who would like jobs. So, and we are used to that comfort. But the same film, when it is shot abroad, they go with a much smaller crew. So it's not that you don't know how to do it, but it's just that when you're here, you feel we'll feel good by giving people more employment.
Yeah, I was going to ask you because you've shot a few films outside of India, a few features. You did one in the U.S., you did one in northern England.
Yeah.
What kind of, because we don't know how things work as well in India. What kind of differences do you see between the way the films are shot and made between what we do here in France or in England compared to India?
India, we have definitely for more people. There's even difference between UK and US. In UK, the sensibility, telephone is ringing, you have a 24mm lens with a wide angle on a telephone and it's ringing. In America, the same shot, the camera will travel through the window over the fan and come back to show the phone, So there is much more, they like the toys. In India, basically our way of shooting films is like our music. It's more decorative. We tend to make it decorative. Even the way I shoot my films or take a shot, for me, I see it as music. When you ask me to do a scene, I see the whole sequence like a music. So the melody is by light and shade. The light and shade creates a melody, and the rhythm is provided by my compositions and camera movement. So if they blend together, then I think it is nice. So you think like that.
And speaking of toys, there's a lot of in these dance sequences, these musical sequences. You use zoom lenses quite a lot, and I read that you own two Angenieux zooms. So yeah, but how does what does the zoom mean to you in working with these kind of lenses on the shoot?
Actually, nowadays we don't use so much zoom unless in a documentary we do quite a bit of zoom. But otherwise we go by prime lenses mostly, and we dolly in and out more than anything else.
More than zoom.
But documentary, when you're much more limited with your resources, you tend to use a lot more zooms. And I feel that now, when the zoom first came, of course, we used to overuse it. Just like today's VFX and digital, we overuse it. But slowly, as time goes, you tend to be more minimal with it, actually.
And so you're more into moving the camera as much as...
Yeah, we move a camera quite a bit now. Yeah.
And do you always try to work with the same crew in terms of your key grip and your gaffer and
almost it's the same, but the fact is in India, most of the decisions are taken by the DOP. Okay. So the gaffer just follows instructions. They don't do something on their own. And normally I operate myself also. We don't have an operator. We operate the own camera when it is a handheld camera. Now it's changing because you have big cranes which are electronic, so you have other operators. But otherwise, I have operated most of the time.
And try to do it yourself. I'm going to open up very soon. Because I feel like there will be people here who know Santosh's work better than I do, and I want you guys to ask some questions. But I always ask this question at the end as well, which is, what kind of advice you would have for young cinematographers or directors to want to pursue the kind of career you've had now that not everybody can go to the Himalayas and get attacked by a tiger. So you have to find other routes. So what would you recommend for young people who want to make films?
What is most important about, especially when it comes to a long-term thing, is to find motivation to work, So what I do is that before I start doing any film or any directing or shooting, I will dedicate this to someone I love very much, like my dad or mom or someone. Then I will find an energy because I'm paying a tribute to them. So I will never feel tired. And then whatever I do has to be honest, It can't be like I'll steal some flowers and offer it to God. It should be from within. So I'll try to be as pure as possible in what I do because it is an offering. So when you get into doing a tribute for people, for someone you love, then you find that there is a lot more honesty and a motivation to do something really fine for them. That's what I do.
That's great. Let's open up the floor to some questions people may have. Want to ask Santosh about his work. I see somebody up there. We have a micro here. Merci. There's somebody in the back too. Okay. Oh, wait, he's got one already. He's set. Go ahead.
Hi. Just a question. I know you said something about operating as well as DPing at the same time. What do you think are the advantages and disadvantages, and would you advise it in bigger films, or if as a film gets bigger, would you advise operating and DPing, or you would tend to scale it down depending on how big the film is?
See, if you have another operator, it better be someone who you trust too much. Because sometimes when you operate camera, you can fine-tune your compositions. See, when I work with Maniratnam, who I've done 6 films with, he doesn't let anyone else operate if I'm there. He wants you to operate because he feels that he feels complete only when you operate. So I think it is a very personal choice. But I would say operating is great because the machine and you become one. I think it's a very nice way of handling it actually. Maybe I'm used to that, that's why I might be saying, because nowadays, after the digital era has happened, DOPs have started spending more time in front of monitor than behind the camera. Because, when you are shooting film, you would trust film and see what your eye sees. But now it is also very important to see what the monitor is actually capturing. So it has just changed the sensibility a bit. Yeah.
Hello. Hello again, sir. My name is Indravati. So, like I said before, I grew up in Paris watching those movies where, like you said, Indian films were barely accessible. So we had heavy dubbing or just, like I did, watch the movies without understanding anything and just related to the songs growing up. And I don't know if you know it, but nowadays a trend came out with one of the songs from Ashoka, Sansanana, sung by Alka Yagnik, and I just wanted to know regarding the digital era, like you mentioned before, how much has it influenced your thought and process of directing now? Like the platforms, or do you take into consideration the small screening or the algorithm, for example?
Actually, when I was doing interview, someone asked me, she asked me actually, that this Sansana song has become very viral. And what is interesting, she said was, mind quoting you, was that after seeing that song, a lot of people revisited the film on Netflix.
Yeah.
After that's about 20 years later. So a lot of people went back to see the film, the original. And a lot of people now are asking, messaging and saying, are you getting copyright for this viral transition? So I said, no, but I think it actually, see, music is very universal, just like cinematography. People will like it irrespective of the language. This is one of the main reasons why I wanted to be a cinematographer, because it is a universal language. And from a place like Kerala, I went to Tamil Nadu doing Tamil films, then to Hindi films, and then to Hollywood. It is no language. I'm sitting here because of a universal language, because I have nothing in common with the French except for Angenieux lens.
I actually wanted to ask about that, about digital, because you started off shooting on film, probably 16 millimeter, if you were doing small, documentaries.
Yeah, I started out with the Super 8.
Super 8, wow, yeah. Okay. And then
Kodachrome, those very difficult days those days, because it needs a lot of light. But I think it was very interesting. I loved the idea of waiting to see the rushes, the time spent. I like, very nostalgic to smell the film. And of course, I must have shot, I miss Kodak actually. In fact, in India, the Kodak people came and had a big function and all that, trying to promote film again. And there is a very strong attempt to bring it in again. But in India, it is very difficult to get fresh stock. It is very easy in America to get fresh stock and have processing. But in India, we still have one processing plant, but getting stock, we have to buy it, maybe order it 6 months in advance and things like that, which makes it difficult. But now Kodak has reached out and said that we will do everything possible for you
to bring it back. Anybody else in the yes?
Hi, this is Rafi Hussain. Yeah, you're directing film and you are a cinematographer. So I'm sure sometimes it happens, when one directors, shoot a scene, so you think it's not the right way to shoot. So how you deal, and do you really think, as you are a director and cinematographer, do you need any director in your films?
Yeah, I think, everyone has, when you are directing a film, they have a vision. And as a cinematographer, it is your responsibility to understand the vision and translate it the way he wants. You can't go and dictate what you want. Though a lot of people might quote your films and say, why don't you do it like this or like that? So you try to help the director, not have we don't go to war, no, we go to make a film. Yeah.
It means when you are working with the director, so you are the director's camera.
Yeah. Yeah, you actually, see, we discuss it in so much detail if you have some conflict of interest. So that at the time of shoot, you are totally with the film, and we try to be on time. So all discussions happen before. No, I think we try to sort it out, as people before we have a confrontation. I have not had any big confrontations except with painter M.F. Hussain. I shot Meenakshi with him. So he was someone who would actually not even come for the shoot. He'll tell a scene in the morning, do some sketches. He used to paint very well. And he said, you can't use these colors and all. I wanted to learn color and all that. But he was a very interesting person. Then I said, but these dialogues are too much or to be told on the road. Then he will look at me and say, the dialogues are too much. He'll take the paper and tear it up and say, no dialogues in the scene. So you have all kinds of people you come across, yeah.
More questions?
I have another question, just more general question. So you've shot something like 80 films that you've been a DP on, shorts and features, and you've directed 20. What was the hardest or the most ambitious film, either as a director or as a cinematographer?
The hardest and the most ambitious film is the one I'm doing now.
Ah, okay.
In Kashmir, yeah.
Okay.
-14. I shot -14.
So it's freezing there right now.
It's freezing, and in the winter it is really freezing. And it's a period film, that is the craziest weather changes I've had. In fact, I'm planning to go to Iceland to see if it gets worse there or here, whichever is better,
Maybe this is maybe it's the moment we can show the clip from. You have a clip from this film, correct?
Yeah, I have a teaser kind of.
A teaser. Let's watch a teaser and maybe you can talk about this project. Merci.
This is my new film actually. Yeah, this one.
So, you've already started shooting this film.
I've shot about 20 days.
And how much more do you have left on this?
I have quite a bit. I only shot the childhood portions actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so this is a big location project as well, going on location, shooting in this.
It's a very interesting project actually. Because this lady who's called Habba Khatun is a very famous poet who was in the 16th century. And she was a queen there. So she's a poet, singer. And a lot of places in Kashmir are named after her. So it's a very interesting.
So it's her story or
it's her story, but it came at a time of a confrontation with the Mughals and things like that. So it is very interesting drama with a lot more actors and things like that. Yeah.
And on a film like this, so you still have some months of shooting ahead of you. You're a director, you're involved in the post-production, talking about VFX and color correction and all the things that a DP is going to do on the back end of a film.
Yeah, but actually what we are waiting for is, I have 6 songs in the film which Rahman has to give me. So after that only I can go and shoot.
When the songs are...
I need to have the songs in place.
He has to give you the songs.
So it'll take time, and meanwhile I'm shooting all these films, and I'm meeting him. I met him here actually. It's easier to meet him in Cannes than I actually met him here after a long time. Yeah.
Hilarious. Anybody else have any questions in the...
Hi again. This is a double-barreled question, so I kind of apologize for the length of it. As somebody who's a producer and I'm transiting to becoming a director, changing roles, what advice do you have to give somebody like me? But also, I exist between multiple cultures. So I'm Nigerian, but I'm British, and my films kind of move between both places and kind of borrow a bit from different cultures. So what advice do you have to give me as well? Thank you.
I think it's a very good combination. I love the fact I used to teach in Nigeria, not Nigeria, Uganda. And I've heard some fantastic stories from the Africans there, fantastic. So I think it always works very well when you are when you have two cultures going on in your life, you know. So I'm sure, just like that, producer, director is also like two different cultures, you know. As a director, it's a very great satisfaction. As a producer also, but unlike cinematography where your life is more zen, you only interact with light, with nature and very nicely with actors and all that. As a director and as a producer, I think you have to have a good PR, beat a lot of people, financiers, all kinds of people you have to beat. And you can't shy away from all that, you know. You need to have those skills also. So I think, discover the world, my dear friend. Yeah.
Merci.
Okay.
More questions?
Again.
Hi. Hello.
Yeah.
First, I would like to thank Angenieux to organize this masterclass every year, and also to recognize such amazing cinematographers like you and all the others who already was tribute in the last 11 years. Thank you so much, Angenieux. And what I would like to congratulate you first at all, because your work is amazing through all these years. And I actually have two questions. One of it would be, what was the biggest challenge you had so far in your career? And the other one, what advice could you give to the new upcoming cinematographers?
I think the biggest challenge I had in my career was, I was shooting a film called Roja. I don't have that song here. So we had this song under a big waterfall. But the people who were dancing were all 60 years old ladies, you know, and they're making fun of a newly married couple. And now it was so difficult to shoot there under the waterfall because the director asked me, how can we make it look different? So Maniratnamoli. So I told him, let's shoot it at night, I said. So we had to light it up. And those days we didn't have so much of infrastructure as we have today. So I used to bring mirrors and put it under the this thing and put lights on that so it'll shine upstairs. And if I use some big powerful lights, by the time the generator cable came, these big lights would become very minimalistic looking things. But the worst thing was that some of these dancers could not hear properly. And it was a song and under a waterfall, which makes it worse, you know. So they are all looking at each other to see when to start. So that was a horrendous 5-day of shoot, actually. Yeah. I think if you ever go, there's a song, it's called Rukmini, Rukmini, you can understand what I'm saying. It's in a film called Roja, which became a pan-India film. It was originally a Tamil film, then it suddenly became very big. It was also A.R. Rahman's first music film. Yeah.
And I think your second question for you was just, yeah. Again,
I talked about the motivation and all that stuff.
Yeah, about advice, motivation, all that. You mentioned that. And yeah, he talked about that before and the personal connection to what you're doing in your work.
More questions? Okay, Jordan, I think we have a question from the social media, because Santosh is also inspiring the social media. So I think we have a question for Santosh from that, if can, so that Jordan can ask the question.
From social media?
Yeah, we have a question that's...
is it going to come up on the screen? Okay.
As far as I understand.
Yeah, I can, if I can, it's not there yet.
It's going to come.
Okay, thank you.
I think.
Oh, okay. We can read this. So I'll read it aloud. If Ravanan was made today, that's the clip on the waterfall we just saw. Given the daunting shooting of the movie, would you still shoot it the practical way it was done, or would you use some green screen or virtual production technology, VFX, etc.? So would you do it for real or not?
Yeah, I think we will try to do it as real as possible. A lot of directors don't want any VFX and all that. In fact, if you see a film like Open Ear, which is such a big production film, they have not used too much VFX. They have gone real, actually, because I think it is more believable, you know. And I think overuse of the digital can actually kill the film, I feel, you know, especially if you catch it. Virtual production technique also is not as dependable, you know. In fact, in India, green screen still works, except that when there are too many metallic things, virtual production might be good because the metal will not reflect the green, those kind of things. But I think it is still a little, we would still try to do as much real as possible.
Okay.
More question? We are at the end of this masterclass. So one last question, if you wish. Otherwise, we will close the session. No? Okay.
Yeah,
one?
okay.
One more?
She's going to sing Sanana San.
No, it's really not a good idea, trust me. I just wanted to know, because you presented your next film, Zuni, and I've got to watch Ashoka and also your Malayalam film called Urumi. You seem to have a fascination for ancient stories, and I just wanted to know why. What is the personal connection we have with this type of stories, and why you wanted to tell them as a director?
I think I told in the beginning that I was, my first visual education was from my grandmother, who used to show all these paintings and talk about the mythology, historical stories. Now, I think there are different kinds of directors, actually. Some directors, I think, like to create their own world. There are a lot of directors like that. And some people like to be very realistic, documentary approach. So I think I belong to someone who would like to create their own world. So I try to create my own world as I see it. It's a purely fictitious world. But of course I shoot also real stuff. So I think my fascination is towards that. And also I find almost all these historicals have something that resonates within you. And I sort of like the world to recreate the world that we might not have seen. Thank you.
Yeah, and I just wanted to, for those who want to discover Santosh's work, you know, Ashoka is available on Netflix, and that's how I saw it. But a film we didn't show a clip of that I really loved, called The Terrorist, that you made in 1998. And it's a very different kind of movie. It's a Tamil film. There's no music sequences. It's a very realistic film. A lot of water.
Actually, that film was the first film to play in Sundance from India. And then it also was nominated for the Independent Spirits Award. But what was good was in Cairo, it won all the awards, and John Malkovich was the chairman there, and he helped release the film in US. And later, Michael O'Dungy, the person who wrote English Patient, released it in UK also. Yeah.
And so that's a film you can find on DVD, and it's really recommended. It's a beautiful film and a very dark film too.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay, well, thank you, everybody,
Thank you
for
so
coming.
much. Thank you so much.
Well, if you want to continue the adventure with Santosh, please join us tomorrow for the ceremony. You can register on the film festival's website to attend the ceremony. So thank you for coming. Santosh, thank you so much. Jordan, thank you so much. As you said, Santosh, when you prepare something, when you think about somebody you care for, it's easier. So this is what the Angenieux team did. We tried to prepare this masterclass thinking of you because we care for you. And we thank you so much for what you gave us today. So please.
Thank you so much.
See you tomorrow.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.